Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share just a brief presentation that we are highlighting at all of our elementary PTA meetings throughout the district this fall. I've had the opportunity to attend 4 meetings and will attend 3 more this week, and we're just trying to get the word out of Phase 3 and what's to come for the district. Also would like to thank Corey for recording this presentation. For those in the community who don't attend elementary PTA, we'll be sure to put this on the website as well. If you recall, several years ago, the board started to tackle what we called the ABCs, and we did that by creating a community task force. And it's important to remind our community that it wasn't the district that selected those members of the task force, but it was the community that selected individuals to serve as part of that group. It was that committee that determined that not only did we have an aging facilities problem, but we also needed to balance enrollment in our high schools and make sure that we have capacity for all students. Those ABCs were solved by our community endorsing our plan and supporting it through a bond issue. And it was that bond issue that created these beautiful middle schools and really set a standard in Worthington for what a middle school experience should be like, and created a consistent standard throughout the district. It also created additional capacity for middle school, and as a result of moving the 6th graders to the middle school, we created additional capacity at the elementary school as well. And then the final step of that process was a feeder pattern committee that determined, with one change of Slate Hill Elementary, we were able to balance the high schools and really accomplish all 3 of those goals. More recently, we brought together a second task force, and we asked them to dig into our aging facilities issue. They also addressed the capacity as being a concern, but I highlighted there in orange the budget and the impact seem to be the overriding themes of the second task force. Just a reminder, this was a new group. There were just a few members that had served on the first task force, but for the most part, it was a new group of our community that reviewed the actions of the first task force and made an independent recommendation as to a path forward. This committee recommended that the project had great impact in our community, and therefore high schools were determined to be the target. As well, there was some unique opportunities with some debt that was coming off of the books, and there was a unique opportunity to maximize this project and take advantage of the circumstances with our budget. So again, same process, same great results. Have some new pictures here. 2 of these were taken this morning, but as you can see in the top left corner, Thomas Worthington High School has now progressed to the 2nd floor, and it's beginning to look a lot more like that picture in the top right. Down at the bottom, you will see the outdoor eating and learning addition that's proposed at Kilbourne High School, and then a picture in the bottom right of the new turf field that is near 270 and hopefully will be functional in just about 10 days. So we're really excited about that. The district again repeated the process and established a standard for our 2 comprehensive high schools, and now it's time for Phase 3. With Phase 3, it's obviously the most complicated because you have many buildings. You also are really charged with 2 tasks. First, you must establish what an elementary standard is for Worthington schools. So think portrait of a learner. It's time in 2024 that we create a portrait of an elementary school. What is it that Worthington wants for the future when we think about elementary schools? And then it comes down to solving a really complicated puzzle. And my job tonight is just to give you a couple aspects of that puzzle to get you thinking and help you get the word out that in 2024, our district's going to begin to dig into this puzzle. The first is enrollment. This chart may be hard for some of you to see, but if you take a look there, you will see that in Worthington, the enrollment of our elementary schools varies greatly. And if we were to talk about building a new school, Jeff Ebley tells me that the OFCC would prefer that that building be larger than some of our buildings. So the average is probably close to 500 when you build a new school. Part of that is efficiency. But for some of our schools in the district, that would be a change and would be quite a bit larger. Some of our neighboring districts get close to 600. So when we talk about solving this puzzle, one of the first things we have to determine is what is our tolerance for change in Worthington when it comes to size of an elementary school? How efficient would a school run, or how much more efficient would a school run if it was slightly larger? And what would the consequences be if we did increase the enrollment in one of these buildings? So enrollment is really the first piece of the puzzle. Second is renovate or replace. So once we establish a standard for elementary schools in the district, we have to determine if we can meet that standard by renovating the building. Obviously, some of our buildings are much newer than some of the other elementary schools, so it may be quite possible that we're able to reach that standard through renovation at many places. But the committee will have to dig into that. This chart is actually from the OFCC, and it highlights in bold schools that were evaluated several years ago, and their recommendation is any building that's over 66% in the renovation versus replace, the money should be spent towards replacing the building. So if you think of owning a $5,000 car and getting a quote from your mechanic for $3,300, if the OFCC was advising you with the building, they would say it's time to replace the car. If the repair costs were much less, then they would obviously say fix it, and you'd be able to get good use out of that building. So this chart is a little outdated, but it does help our elementary school personnel as well as our parents understand where their building fell on the past evaluation, and we're going to have those buildings reevaluated in 2024 so that we have new data. The next is neighborhoods. Worthington has committed to keeping our neighborhood schools together. I'm not aware of any school in Central Ohio that's had less change when it comes to boundaries. But if you talk about changing the size of an elementary school, it's likely that a boundary conversation will follow. And so again, how much change will be acceptable as we talk about this complicated puzzle and begin to work on our elementary schools and bringing those up to standard. The feeder pattern is another complication. We did make one minor change with Slate Hill, moving from the Cardinals to the Wolves. They slid over there to blue, but for the most part, our feeder pattern has stayed very, very consistent, unlike many of our neighboring districts. And would any of our plan for phase 3 impact that feeder pattern, or would students still have that unique opportunity to attend high school with their elementary school classmates like we've been able to honor for many, many years? And then the last piece of the puzzle is how will we educate students during construction? And so I show this picture. One of our principals asked, hey, where's that picture? Like they thought we were actually building that building. But that's just an example of a district that built a building on current property and then would have the ability to educate students in the new building and bring students from an area elementary school into the old building while their site is being addressed. So again, not ideal, would obviously create a little bit of strain on traffic in this neighborhood. When you look at this neighborhood, it looks similar to one of our elementary schools in that it has streets that pretty much go around the entire site. So there would be strain on traffic. There would be some adjustment for students that would be educated outside of their neighborhood or outside of their routine. Again, a question for our community is how much tolerance is there for this type of arrangement and as we deal with the growing pains. So in summary, we're very proud of our community's collective efforts for phase 1 and phase 2. In 2024, we must create a new elementary school standard. We must determine what we can do through renovations and replacements, and then we just need to prioritize our needs. So our goal in going out and speaking to elementary PTAs is just to have those in attendance spread that word so that people aren't caught off guard in 2024 when we begin to establish this new task force and dig into this puzzle.